playing football the Arsenal way.
Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Way. Back again with you guys for another episode of our Pressbox series. I'm joined by football.london's Arsenal writer, Kaya Kaynak. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Good, thank you. Yes, feeling much better than last week. Thank you, everyone, for the lovely messages. And yeah, all good. Willing to talk about Arsenal all over again.
Indeed, yes. Lots of news dropping today. Of course, the club have travelled this morning to the US. You will be following in hot pursuit very, very soon as well. Is it tomorrow you're going on the trip?
Tomorrow afternoon, yeah.
Lovely stuff. Looking forward to it.
Very much so, very much so. We were just discussing what the weather's going to be like over there, how it's going to try and compete with the weather over here, because if anyone's not watching in the UK, it's boiling today, which is why we're all roasting. So we'll try and give you some good analysis despite the heat. But yeah, looking forward to that. Looking forward to the preseason games. Looking forward to hopefully some other cool stuff, which we'll bring you on the Football London website. And it's going to be really fun, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to, obviously, hopefully we can do some of these shows while you're out there. We can get some on the ground reactions. And of course, I'm sure you'll be taking a lot of videos and things like that. So we can try and get some stuff up onto the channel as well, which should be good. First things first, we'll talk about the US tour. You attended the premiere of the Highland Stings. And how was that? Was that fun? Good hearing Jack Wilshere's announcement?
Good. It was good to be in the room for I was the worst kept secret in football, but it was good to be in the room for the official confirmation that Jack Wilshere is obviously going to be the new under-18s coach, and a point which I think is quite a smart one from Arsenal. Very few downsides as far as I can see. Obviously, there's a risk about him being inexperienced, but they've got his assistant Adam Birchall has 13 years coaching experience and has been with the club for a while now, so they've got all the tools around him to succeed. And yeah, it was a really positive night. I think everyone there was in a really good mood. Obviously, a lot of the Arsenal under 15s and 16s were there as well. So they all seemed very happy. They were enjoying themselves. A lot of laughter at sort of the behind the scenes, seeing themselves on the big screen, which is very strange. But yeah, enjoyable. And Arsenal came across very well yet again. And the Hale End Academy, it's a great advert for them.
Absolutely. But there aren't that many Hale End graduates going on the tour. In fact, I believe only Rule Waters is the only youth player that's involved. Of course, you've got the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe and Eddie Nketiah that progressed and graduated, but only Rule Waters. And of all the players, I know that he's, very appreciated, and Arteta is definitely, he's caught the eye of Arteta during his time with the youth team. He's got a really interesting kind of story, Waters, coming through a number of Premier League sides. I think he was on trial at Man United as well, and even took time out of football and has come back. It's quite a crazy story, and if you have time, I recommend you going and looking into it. But are you surprised it's just him that's been included?
Yes, in short, he's a fantastic player, and we've written pieces on the site about him, which, like you said, I'd encourage you all to go and check out. Amazing backstory. Took a break from the game for 2 years, fell out of love with it, came back. Really good signing from Arsenal, signed very cheap, obviously, and it's been very dedicated. And I think that's what impressed Mikel Arteta the most. I heard a story about him and Leno Sousa waking each other up early to go do extra runs before training while they're in the training camp in Germany, and then doing extra training sessions after. So they're dedicated. You don't get too many 17-year-olds who sort of the pennies dropped with them. Like, this is the dedication, the hard work I need to succeed as a professional footballer. A lot of them sort of think, I'm talented, I'll make it. We'll see what happens. But with this guy, he seems pretty switched on. So I'd say that's one of the reasons, obviously, his obvious talent and the need Arsenal have to sort of slowly reintroduce centre-backs. A lot of them have only been in training for, 1 day, because they arrived on Monday. So that's, something to keep an eye on. That's why I'd assume that he's going as a defender. But yeah, it's a shame that the others aren't going. Players you think of like Brett Norton-Cuffy would have been excited to see him. Charlie Coutinho obviously is the huge name who did so well last season in his sort of debut against Sunderland. It's a shame to see him not involved. Salah as well, another player. Amari Hutchinson, although he may be, there's sort of reports linking him to a loan. Players like Miguel Aziz, again, reports linking him to a loan. But there's so many youngsters who you think could have gone, and you see the number of goalkeepers in the squad, 5 of them. It's a 33-man squad. Could they have brought more along? Maybe. I'm of the opinion that it would have been good to maybe get them out there just to train with the first team and just to be around that environment. It would have been a good experience. And obviously, I've sort of heard from people sort of in the hours since it's the news has come out, and been speaking to people sort of in and around a lot of the youngsters who couldn't make it, and they're upset, obviously, that they couldn't go, but their time will come. A lot of them, I think specifically of Patino, Sousa, Salah, plenty of players like that. Their time will come, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. Hopefully, there's still Emirates Cup to play. behind closed doors friendlies when Arsenal come back. So they'll hopefully get a chance to impress. But Arsenal under 21s have a pre-season that they're getting ready for, and they've got a new coach who's just been appointed in Mehmet Ali. So maybe he wants to sort of keep some of them back to sort of, I guess, indoctrinate them into his style. But that's, I don't know, the first team takes priority. So yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the guys who've gone obviously aren't going to be involved going forward. Well, you would assume they're not going to be involved. The likes of Bellerin, who's been linked with the move away, Pepe, Torreira is another one. So it's a strange one. Maybe we'll see some players come out later in the tour, but it's a shame. I think everyone's slightly disappointed that so many youngsters aren't going because pre-season is always a great time to see them play.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of disappointment. Just for those that maybe haven't caught the news, to give you the full list, we've got Ramsdale, Leno, Turner, Okonkwo, and Runarsson, Tierney, Tavares, Gabriel, Pablo Mari, White holding Saliba, Bellerin, Cedric, Tomiyasu, and Rule Waters. So the defenders, midfielders, El Neni, Torreira, Partey, Smith Rowe, Lokonga, Xhaka, Ødegaard, Maitland-Niles, Vieira, and Nelson. And the forwards are Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, Jesus, and Nicolas Pepe, Saka, Balogun, and Marquinhos. There's a couple of comments about Patino. In fact, Guna Work says, disappointed not to see Patino in the US squad. Really liked his performance against Nuremberg. Was hoping to see more. I agree with you. I think there's a chance that maybe if the likes of Torreira, Maitland-Niles will say to get moves during the next 2 weeks, I reckon that there's a chance they might call up some players to join them. They may not. We'll wait and see. Fletch asked the question, looks like Marie, Bellerin, Maitland-Niles and Pepe are on their way to the US. Will that not make it more difficult for us to sell them? Do you think this shows that we could keep them, or is this a shop window opportunity?
I don't think it'll make it more difficult to sell them. I think if the players need to travel to make a move, they'll do so. It's a shop window basically for those kind of guys who you'd expect not to be involved. Maybe in Ainsley Maitland-Niles, you could see a position in midfield being available next season. But Arsenal want to bring in more players, so I don't quite see how that works. Someone like a Hector Bellerin, Pablo Mari, Nicola Pepe, they're all expected to leave. So it's a chance for them to try and secure themselves a good move. And if they train well, I'm sure Mikel Arteta will be talking them up in the press and taking every opportunity he can to say, these are such good guys. They're working so hard behind the scenes, giving glowing character references for future transfers. But I think it's a shop window for them. And I do sympathise with Arsenal in the sense that we've all criticised them for not selling well. And if none of them had been taken, then obviously this would have tanked their value even further. So I get why those guys have had to come on this tour, and it's a shame that maybe the deals can be done sooner. But if the market's not there, it's not there, and hopefully this will get it going for those guys.
Yeah, hopefully we do. I think there's an opportunity for those players absolutely to put themselves in the shop window. You know, there was a lot of criticism of Arteta and the club for tanking the value of the likes of Guendouzi and Ozil, and now I'm seeing criticism of us giving them opportunity to, potentially get these guys minutes on the summer tour. So there is, I think, some contradictions going on. But I think it's an opportunity. And of course, we don't know if those players will end up getting sold. And so making sure they remain match fit and available and ready for the season to start is also going to be important. Let's move on to kind of the expectations around who might shine during this potential pre-season tour. Rule Waters we've touched upon, but Marquinhos I thought had a really interesting cameo against Nuremberg. Looked really energetic. It came on, and this Brazilian contingent of players, including Jesus and Martinelli and Gabriel, are really kind of forming a bit of a. No, I don't want to say a clique because I think that Arteta wants to kind of avoid cliques from building, but they're certainly kind of forming a bit of a group, and we get linked more and more with Brazilian players like Lucas Paqueta, of course. Do you think there's method in this kind of Portuguese-speaking group that are being brought in?
Yeah, Brazil are number one nation in the world, so to get Brazilian players makes sense right now. Their stocks are very high, to quote a phrase from another podcast.
We might have just lost connection to Kaya very briefly. Whilst we try and get Kaya back into the groove of things, let's tackle some questions from the chat box. I'm sure Kaya will be returning to us very soon. Jason says, sorry, Kaya, we lost you completely for the last 30 seconds. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. So sorry
we lost you for like 40
yes.
seconds. It's fine. I vamped, so it was all professional.
Thank you.
You
Very
can start the whole answer again.
It's me who's being unprofessional. I apologise for that. Yes, the question was before
Brazilian contingent.
Yes, the Brazilian contingent. Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. Obviously, Arsenal have a lot of Brazilian players right now because Brazil are number one nation in the world, and Brazilians, whenever they come over to the UK, it's not just Brazilians at Arsenal, but it's Brazilians across the Premier League. You'll notice that sort of after games, if there's, let's say Arsenal are playing, I don't know, Newcastle, the furthest team away, like those Brazilians, someone like a Joel Linton will shake hands with the Martinelli because they all sort of stick together because they're all in pretty similar boats. They're all footballers who are far away from home, trying to sort of make a career out here for themselves and hopefully doing as well as possible. So they're a group that tend to stick together, and they all seem like they're getting on very well. And it's the Portuguese speakers in general. Obviously, Fabio Vieira's in that picture with them on the plane. Cedric's another Portuguese guy. Nuno Tavares is another one. So yeah, there's a big Portuguese speaking contingent. Arteta speaks Portuguese, so yeah, it's pretty cool, I think.
Absolutely. Now, there are some players that we've mentioned that are in the shop window. Leno has been included in this group, despite the fact that he is supposedly quite close to a move to Fulham. What do you make of his inclusion, considering there's been these reports? And today, of course, we heard from Lucas Torreira's agent, who claims that there's a pre-agreement in place with Valencia, and now the two clubs will, of course, meet to try and discuss and reach a fee. That's not really surprising considering Gattuso is the manager and, he was heavily involved in Fiorentina prior to Torreira's arrival there. So what do you make of their inclusion, despite the fact that both look like real potential exits in the coming weeks?
I guess it had to be done. You couldn't not include them before the deals were completed, because you'd essentially be confirming them and you'd essentially be, I guess, risking jeopardizing those deals, and then the players have to fly out after that, or do they stay here? And it's a whole sort of I guess admin kerfuffle as much as anything. But yeah, again, like we said earlier, I do wonder if maybe when those guys or if those guys seal their moves, maybe someone else will come out and replace them. But yeah, those moves are in the works, and Torreira's agent's been very public in the way he's gone about doing it, but Leno's agent's been a bit more private. I think that's what we're used to in the sort of the UK press, but we'll see what happens. I think Fulham would be a fantastic move for Bernd Leno if he can get it over the line, and from what I've heard, that's sort of edging a little bit closer. But I guess it would have been difficult for Arsenal to leave them behind and then say, "Oh no, they're not leaving. It's not a transfer. We just left them behind." So I kind of get it, but yeah, I think we all know what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just to briefly kind of skew away from the tour and go more into the potential transfers, which I know is your favourite topic in the whole wide world, Kaya. The Arsenal private investigators have been out. They have been in full force today, as I'm sure that you have seen, as a house was put up for sale in Leicester. And supposedly, this is the house of Youri Tielemans, because the Arsenal fans have been zooming in. They found images. I think, was it something stuck on the house, that the fridge inside the house that has the daughter's name, who of course is the same name as Tielemans' daughter. Now, this is nothing to suggest or confirm that anything indeed is happening, but it is very suspicious, Kaya. It's very suspicious indeed.
Yeah, I don't want to go full here we go, but it looks positive, doesn't it? He might just be moving to a bigger house in Leicester. He might have got a contract extension in Leicester and wants to spend a bit more money on a nice new house for himself. I don't know. You can't read too much into it. But fair play to the Arsenal Twitter sort of private investigators. They've smashed it yet again. I mean, how would you even think to zoom in on the player's fridge and see what the kids' names are? That's next level investigating. Right? It puts us journalists to shame. But fantastic. And yeah, I mean, Arsenal are targeting Tielemans. We know that. We know there are other clubs interested now, and Mikel Arteta said he wants to get deals over the line before the end of the window. And I think Tielemans is a deal that he does want to get over the line before the window's over. So he's a player to keep an eye on. And if he's able to come out and join Arsenal on the US tour, fantastic. You have to bear in mind, the season's not that far away from starting. It's only about 3 weeks until the season gets going again. So if Arsenal want to get that deal done, they're going to have to move relatively quickly to have him in tow before Premier League gets up and running. So maybe there's been some movement there, but that's not sort of insider information on my part before that gets taken out of account. All we know is that Arsenal are interested and they want to get more deals done this summer. So we want to keep an eye on, and him selling his house does look like a positive in that race.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so funny. I just love it. I love the Arsenal fan base in terms of these sorts of things. I know we've touched upon Tielemans there, but Masema asks, "Hey guys, watching all the way from Uganda. Apart from the recently done deals, which player are on their way to Arsenal. So we just touched upon Tielemans there. Obviously, the other big name being talked about at the moment is Lucas Paqueta of Lyon. If this Tielemans situation is, of course, hinting towards him being a potential incoming, and there is lots of talk around Paqueta, you know, it's not just coming out from, say, one source in France now. There's sources in the UK that have also talked about this deal. I find it odd that both would be signed, because whilst they do play different positions, and Paqueta is, you know, more of an attacking midfielder and Tielemans is more of a box-to-box midfielder, Tielemans is also associated with being more of the offensive style box-to-box than, say, the defensive style. So do you think is there any chance you think Arsenal would go for both? And if they were to, it's a little staggering that they would do that.
Yeah, especially also they signed Fabio Vieira this summer as well.
Yeah,
so we've got lots of those. Is it Arteta did do that interview where he said, you know, Arsenal used to be a club where they had Rosicky, Wilshere, Ramsey, Arteta, Cazorla, Ozil all in the same squad. So maybe that's what he wants to build towards. Man City have a lot of those kind of players in their squads who can play anywhere across the front line, anywhere in the midfield. So maybe there's something in that. But I would say I would be surprised if both of them came in. I think that would be. Yeah, it wouldn't, in terms of just the squad building, it wouldn't make too much sense. But strength in depth is something Arsenal struggled with last season. So if they can bring that in, then fantastic. We obviously like seeing young guys given a chance, but also if Arsenal can afford to get in quality players, then you know they'll look to do that. And it does appear that the two names we mentioned there are sort of on the radar, and yeah, definitely wants to keep an eye out on, I think.
Absolutely. Let's go to Marcus, who says, with Martinez seemingly a no, because it does look like Man United are closing in on that one now. Just a brief word. Do you agree that they're paying a price that's well over what, one, he's worth, and two, what Arsenal would have been willing to go to?
I think if he's going to start for them every week, then fair enough, he's worth it. But personally, I don't think he will, because they've already got Varane and Maguire, and Maguire's going to continue to be club captain. So you're dropping Rafael Varane, and they've just spent money on signing a left back in Malacia, and they've got Telles, they've got Shaw. So I'm confused as to where he fits into all of that. But obviously, I think, you know, Man United's defense last season was a bit of a shambles. But yeah, 60 million does seem a lot, doesn't it? And listen, Arsenal may come in with a late bid, but I would be surprised. I don't think. I think for a player who's not necessarily would be a guaranteed starter at the Emirates, I think that would be a lot of money. But we said similar things about Aaron Ramsdale before he came in, and he ended up coming in. Arsenal have shown that if they think the player's worth it, they're willing to pay what it takes. But it does seem that he's not going to be coming to Arsenal right now. But, you know, everything can change. So who knows? In answer to your question, I do think 60 million seems a bit steep for him.
Yeah, so do I. I think it's quite an incredible amount of money to pay for someone. You know, you're looking at someone who cost around, I think, just 15 million euros less than what De Ligt and De Jong ended up going for. So, yeah, it's quite the transfer fee. There was one other question. I will try and endeavour to find it. It was in relation to Lisandro Martinez. I think it actually was the question that I highlighted. Yeah, Marcus says, you know, does it mean that two or three are more needed to cover those areas? I mean, Lisandro, while he was being looked at as left back, could play left centre back. He could play at DM. Not getting him with these links to Grimaldo, of course, you know, surfacing from Portugal. Do you think Arsenal need to sign more than just, say, a left back to cover what he would have provided?
So what Martinez, and what I've heard from speaking to people, the reason Martinez was considered so highly was because of the fact he could play that sort of left-sided Tomiyasu role. And Arsenal obviously have the offensive fullback in Tierney. They want sort of maybe a different option at left back. So I don't know.
Grimaldo isn't that, by the way.
Yeah, Grimaldo's. That's why I'm questionable about the Grimaldo links, and I'm not sure how much of an upgrade he is on Nuno Tavares. If I'm being honest, I think Tavares can do a very similar job to Grimaldo. So if you've got him, then why would you go and sign essentially the same player from the same team? You know, the next summer, it doesn't make too much sense to me. But I think if Arsenal do sign left-sided cover, it's going to be more in the sort of Tomiyasu style mold than the sort of overlapping Kieran Tierney type of fullback. So I don't know if that means they'll look to buy two or three players, because if they do go and buy two or three defenders and then talk about Tielemans and Paqueta, you start doing the maths in terms of the number of players that would be close to 8 or 9 players. That's not going to happen, I don't think, in one transfer window. You're not going to see that many players come into Arsenal, as much as we'd all like to see that happen. So I think I think it would just be the one coming in rather than 2 or 3.
Indeed. A little bit of news dropping from France, saying that Real Betis have inquired about Houssem Aouar, who was, of course, quite heavily linked to Arsenal. That's a carbon copy of the Nabil Fekir situation, by the way, a player that was linked to Arsenal for quite some time at Lyon and ended up going to Real Betis, who, to my understanding, had barely any money to spend. So if they can't bring in Bellerin because they're lacking money, I'm not sure where they're getting the money from for Aouar, but we'll have to wait and see. And lastly, there was one more point. Jason says, why have the Chelsea fans gone very quiet all of a sudden? Didn't they hijack the Rafinha deal? Just before we wrap up, I mean, they're signing Kalidou Koulibaly. It looks like, obviously, Raheem Sterling's come in as well. We discussed this on the morning show briefly. I see quite a lot of erratic transfers from Chelsea all of a sudden. They're acting quite erratically as opposed to kind of the well thought out planned processes that happened with their prior regime. Is this, do you think, a door opening for Arsenal to take advantage of with Chelsea acting like this?
I think it's a boring answer, but it's probably a bit too early to say. They are good players who they're signing. Like Koulibaly is a very good centre back. Sterling's obviously a very good forward player. So they're big names, which I think everyone gets a bit sort of when they see Chelsea going for a sort of Galacticos approach. Then I think everyone sort of thinks, oh well, sort of this is the classic new owner coming in, wanting to impress, signing so many players. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe that pre-season game will be a good indicator in terms of when Arsenal play Chelsea in Orlando. We want to keep an eye on. But if they do start to slide away, possibly. But I think what they do have in their favour is they have a really good manager. When Man United did this whole Galacticos approach, they had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge. Chelsea have Thomas Tuchel in charge. To me, Thomas Tuchel is sort of top 3 managers in the world behind Pep and Klopp. So I think he's someone who can steer the ship, and I think he can handle big personalities. He's done that at PSG. So I think that's sort of their fail-safe mechanism against things getting a bit out of control with this high spending in the transfer market. But it's one to keep an eye on for sure. I think there's a lot of question marks over Chelsea this season. It'll be interesting to see how they answer those.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting next 3 weeks until the season starts, of course, but the US tour kicks off with the players travelling today, quickly followed by Kaya travelling tomorrow. I hope you have a fantastic time in the US, mate. Enjoy it. And I look forward to catching up, and hopefully we can discuss some really positive stories coming out from it. But thank you for joining me. I was going to say, tell me what you're going to be up to, but we know that. But do feel free to celebrate any pieces, of course, that are coming through.
Yes, I'm not hiding it very well. I'm going to be out there in America, giving you as much content as possible. Obviously, it'll be on the football.london website, Facebook pages, Twitter pages, all that kind of stuff. My Twitter page, at Kaya Kaynak 97, you can see there. I'm also on Facebook. Try and follow me on Instagram as well. I'm going to put more videos and stuff up there, so one to keep an eye on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going out there. And if there's anything you want me to cover, guys, let me know. I'll try and bring it to you, because obviously everyone isn't as fortunate as me to be out there. So if there's anything you want to let me know that you want to see covered, just give me a shout.
Lovely stuff. We will continue to bring you the coverage, of course, based in the UK. And we'll check in with Kaya about how things are going. But myself, Bailey, and Chris will continue to give you coverage of the US tour and all of the latest transfer news on the Arsenal way. A massive thank you for joining us. As always, we will be doing a show, as always, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and the usual content breaking throughout the rest of pre-season and into the transfer window as it continues to trundle onwards. We will see you again very, very soon. And as always, keep following us down the Arsenal way.
49, 49, undefeated. Playing for the Arsenal way.